Got to be.
I read excerpts from White Fragility.
You're live now.
And man, it's insanely racist. Okay. Welcome. We're live. Forgot what to say. I am your host, Jay Fry, and with me, as per the usual, is Sean. How is it going, Sean?
Yeah, it's just a wonderful day in the neighborhood.
Is it a beautiful day in the neighborhood?
Could you be? Won't you be?
Would you be?
Would you be my neighbor?
All right, and we also have fucking. If Tom Hanks turns out to be a pedo, I'm gonna be so pissed about Mr. Rogers.
Off about that too.
The movie, not Mr. Rogers. I loved for Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers is a fucking saint. They need to beatify him as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever hear the rumor that he was a Marine Corps sniper?
Yeah, I remember that one. They also said the same thing about Bob Ross.
Not true? Oh.
Well, he was Air Force. Bob Ross was Air Force, though. So yeah, Garrick. They and he had he's just a friggin' murder hobo out there in the woods, just killing off the gooks with ease. But no, he actually didn't serve, as opposed to Bob Ross, who was in the Air Force. So how's it going, Garrick?
I am having the damnedest time trying to find these pictures I'm supposed to be finding, but oh well. Otherwise, yeah, all good.
Is there a delay? It's taking you guys a minute to respond.
Must be on your end.
Okay.
Are you not watching
so
stream,
we've got a few topics to. God no.
Okay. Well, yeah, just
like everybody else, I'm not watching the stream.
Well, I'm kind of monitoring it.
Dear God.
Oh, my feelings.
Jeez.
I put all that work into this stupid graphic.
It looks great, though. It's like spot on. This is
and
beyond,
being on the screen itself, being on the screen itself, it does have all the everything is in frame on the not on the card, but on the screen itself. Everything is in frame on the and as we all know, if it fits, it ships. Not on the card, but on the screen itself. Does anybody have any little topics they want to get to before we get to the big topics?
No, they're all fairly moderate sized topics, so let's do it.
I just want to point out.
We'll start with good old Miss.
I just want to point out the quick gaffe about Joe Biden taking his kids to market. Wow, I didn't realize pedophilia went that far up the chain.
Well, that's been the allegation for a couple of decades.
Or is it human trafficking, or are we going to go straight pedo?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Good.
Yeah, it's both.
It's a bit of both. All right.
I read because I was arguing with somebody on Facebook. I had to actually pull up the numbers, and during the Trump administration, 12,000 kids have crossed the border that have been detained. So that's only the detained, and 8,000 of the 12,000 did not have DNA that matched their guardians. So no paternity in common. Well, it's over the last 3 years, so it's moderate news, but it's been accumulated now that 3 out of 4 do not have a familial tie to the person taking them across the border, as opposed to the Obama administration when it was just kids randomly showing up. Like these have somebody dragging them along, and that person is not a legal guardian, which is illegal in every state in the country. If you were to cross from Mexico into Texas, that is a crime. Aside from the federal crime, it is another federal crime to cross a state's boundaries with a minor that is not yours without a form of consent. So unless there's notes in Espanol granting that, it's a serious question. So I'm assuming the one quarter that did have the kids were with their parents were the asylum seekers, and everyone else was just sneaking across the border. Sex trafficking is a huge deal, and it disgusts me that we don't take it more seriously because it's a racist issue.
It's too big of an issue for Joe Blow to take seriously because there's nothing an individual can do to bring it to an end.
Mm-hmm. There's the old comparison, like the right thinks the left is wrong and the left thinks the right is evil.
Right.
No, I am now full blown the left is evil.
Yeah.
They are the party of abortion, which is killing a child, and they have stupid slogans like "My body, my choice." That's not your body. That's an individual body within your body. That ain't your body. In the course of a 10-year period from Clinton, so 2000 to 2008, when we got Obama, we went from safe, legal, and rare to I don't want my child burdened with a baby young.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want my daughter's burdened with a child young. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
It's a travesty. And it's anytime people want to point out a slippery slope, I point to smoking. When I was a kid, just prevalent everywhere. Like there were ashtrays in the courtroom. And then we moved into, well, wouldn't you rather not have a cigarette smoker next to you as a non-smoker in a restaurant? And today, it's 100 feet away from a federal courthouse door. That's what we got to. From, I would like a smoking section and a non-smoking section to 100 feet away from an orifice at a federal building. It's not a slippery slope. It's a natural progression. Changed my mind.
It boils down to they function by erosion. Anything that's good and noble, they will erode slowly. Not that smoking is necessarily good or noble, but at least it's a free choice. And they'll just erode, and then eventually, when you give in to what is a reasonable demand, because it was a reasonable demand to say, maybe let's have a smoking section that's fully separated from the rest of the dining populace in a restaurant, or way at the back of the airplane, or whatever. Once you give in to what is then considered a reasonable request, they just double down again and go for more.
Yeah, because it's a business. Well, even if it's a nonprofit business, the Moms Demand Action is a business. The Anti-Smoking Coalition is a business. Once they get their first step, they're not going to disband. They've got money. They're going to continue fundraising and go after the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is. So even something initially good will be corrupted over time when it becomes
which explains Al Sharpton. It explains Jesse Jackson.
I swear to God, I cannot tell the difference between Elijah Cummings and John
Lewis.
John Lewis.
Yeah, no, they could be twins.
Yeah. There was the picture of John Lewis getting a presidential award from Obama, and John Lewis sitting there being a baby at like a die-in or something with the like 2-3 years ago. Sitting on the floor of Congress, being a big old bitch. And they were side by side, and I'm like, I'm not positive, but one of those pictures is Elijah Cummings, or both pictures are Elijah Cummings, or neither picture is Elijah Cummings. But it's one of those.
Yeah, they were damn near identical.
Yeah. Because when I saw the picture, I'm like, oh, what's Elijah Cummings doing? I'm like, oh yeah, he's dead. I'll tell you, he did. Jeez, it's just ridiculous. So, what do we want to start with? The Fox story or the Judge story?
Let's go with Fox.
Fox it is. All right. So, for those of you who don't know, Ed Henry, Fox News contributor, formerly, he was recently fired over a sexual misconduct complaint. So he was fired over a sexual misconduct complaint before it came out that he's a rapey piece of shit. Jennifer Eckert, Fox associate producer for Fox Business, she was basically preyed upon and manipulated and groomed by Henry. And then eventually she was violently raped and restrained with handcuffs, where Henry allegedly, because this hasn't gone to court, performed sadistic acts on her and took photographs of her to use for blackmail and to possibly end her career if she decided to speak out about the situation. Well, that happened the week before he was fired for a completely separate, and I don't even know the story on, a sexual harassment or a sexual misconduct complaint. So good for Fox News for being proactive. They learned their lesson from Roger Ailes, who I miss desperately because Fox News hasn't been the same since Ailes left, and it's no longer what it once was.
In some ways, it's bigger, though.
Well, is it bigger? As in, I mean, Hannity and O'Reilly were at the top of the charts, and now it's Tucker and Hannity. And would that not have been a natural progression with Bill O'Reilly to have those numbers that Tucker has?
Probably not.
Is Tucker bringing in the youth?
Yes.
Is he?
Yes. And by youth, I mean Gen Xers and older millennials.
So 37 to 46 is what we're. Oh, excellent youth.
Yes. So he is bringing
bringing
in a younger demographic, and he's got the biggest cable news show ever in history. Period, bar none.
Well, Bill O'Reilly had like 18 years at the number one spot.
Yeah, but he became a grumpy, crabby-ass old man with some, conduct issues. So they were right to get rid of him.
Yeah, he had an ego on him.
The style that O'Reilly has is over. Hannity hasn't glommed onto that yet because he's more like O'Reilly than Tucker. But Tucker, his style is the new one, and that's just spitting cold hard facts that are barely spun.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
And letting the viewers make up their own mind. Hannity is still telling people what to think like O'Reilly did. Tucker is not.
Mm. And also in this same Washington Examiner article, Kathy Ariu, something Latino, who is a networked guest, filed a federal court lawsuit on Monday, just yesterday, against Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, Howard Kurtz, and Gianno Caldwell, and Ed Henry, for sexual misconduct, ranging from inappropriate comments to rape, it says. The accusations is Sean Hannity said to the people, the staff around him, that he would give them $100 if they were able to take Kathy out on a date. That evil sexual misconduct. That's what that was right there. Kurtz and Carlson or Tucker had asked her to come back to their rooms. That's just it. That's it. Not anything particularly more than that.
Well,
but
that's still alleged.
Yeah,
right?
also alleged, because none of this has been proven.
I don't see Tucker doing that.
I don't either. He almost always has one of his children with him when he's traveling. Now, since the thing, and a couple of his kids are over 18 now, so they do the traveling, and they are his personal assistant. So good luck getting that schedule filled in. Never mind the fact that the dude's with his high school sweetheart, and there's something to be said for having an ego on you and thinking you could get tail outside of your relationship, even if it was with your high school sweetheart. There's plenty of instances of that, and usually that kind of thing's forgiven if the relationship goes back that far and you have that many kids, and he's worth now millions. But he just doesn't seem like that kind of guy.
Right.
That's
you
just
never
me.
know.
When you have...
It could be true, but the people that are going to jump to of course it's true because they hate the guy or hate his message is more bothersome to me than somebody who wants to actually figure out whether or not that is true and what sort of proof there is.
Mm-hmm. And Gianno Caldwell attempted repeatedly to ask her out on a date. So of all the instances, between Hannity, who offered $100 for anyone to date her, to Kurtz and Carlson saying, let's bring this conversation back to my hotel room, to Gianno Caldwell saying, would you like to go out with me? Those are the accusations from a liberal Latina on Fox after it comes out that Jennifer Eckart actually had something terrible happen to her with Ed Henry, who is allegedly a piece of shit monster. But, he was an affable enough guy. I just didn't like him, Ed Henry. And he used to go on Red Eye. I used to watch Red Eye because I thought it was hilarious. Like, straight-laced Fox News had like this really awful show that had like so much gay innuendo in it. And it's hosted by a little manlet who, anyway, he, piece of shit. Even if none of this is true, Ed Henry's still a piece of shit. He got a bunch of accusations and whatnot against him.
Right.
And he was fired.
So for this other chick that's accusing Carlson and whoever else, let's not fake the funk here. There is a movement, a push to destroy Tucker Carlson, his show, Fox News itself, and anything. So the likelihood of it being an operative in a plant are much more likely than this broad telling the truth.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, I had an issue with Gretchen Carlson, who made the accusations against Roger Ailes. She was in her 40s. Fox News has a literal plethora of beautiful blonde bombshells. Like, in the last 5 Miss Americas, they hired all 3 blondes.
Well, I mean, that was part of their formula for a winning broadcast, was you put a hot piece of ass, in a low-cut blouse, in a short skirt, under a glass desk, in front of the camera. What's her name?
Am I being tricked here? What? Ainsley Earhart? Please say Ainsley Earhart.
No, Megyn Kelly. She was still at Fox, and she accused Ailes too, didn't she?
Did she?
Or at least
I remember her saying it was a boys' club.
Yeah, and that I'm pretty sure almost every boy in that club made a pass at her because you're dead if you don't.
I'm not dead. Now I want to. There's so many cuter, like Courtney. Courtney something. Courtney Farr. Courtney. Anyways, there's way hotter out there than Megyn Kelly, and less frigid. Oh, I got a downvote. Mike's here.
Yep, he is here.
So, Mike,
But yeah, there's absolutely beautiful women on Fox News, and somebody I was disappointed to see that didn't stick around was that fighter pilot chick, that gorgeous brunette who was a badass. Like, come back to me. I don't even remember her name because she didn't stick around for long enough. But good lord. So we'll
so
go
what's
from
the
Fox
chances that they
News.
hire Kayleigh McElhinney after Trump's done with her?
She's going to run for office herself.
You think so?
Oh yeah,
Oh
yeah.
God, yes.
I mean, she might do it interim for popularity's sake to bolster her. What she's known now as right now is Trump's mouthpiece. So maybe like a 2-year stint on Fox prior to running for office. That is if she leans Republican.
Yeah,
CNN if she doesn't.
We don't even know what her politics are, other than she's pretty gung ho about destroying the press for being lying shitbags.
Yeah, and that's a bipartisan effort.
Can
There are very liberal people out there who voted for Trump because the press is a giant turd. And they don't appreciate being lied to. And Trump is the least conservative president since Reagan. And that says something because the 2 best Republican presidents in the last 50 years have been a fuckbag from California and a dickbag from New York. We have Bush, a couple of Bushes in there, and they sucked as well, but they were Republicans. Like actual Republicans. The whole system sucks. But then you've got the guys you do like as of right now, Lindsey Graham's a little on the shady side, but Rand Paul, who was a pretty good contestant until about 2015 when he shit the bed for a year and a half.
Well,
And then he came back
today.
Did he?
Yep.
God damn it, Rand. What'd he do now?
He came out against the federal action in Portland.
How?
He says it's wrong because they're not marked, and it should be, quote unquote, it should be the job of the local law enforcement to enforce these laws. He's not wrong there.
It should be the job. No, he is.
No, he's not wrong. It should be the job of the local law enforcement. That part is true.
It's not their jurisdiction.
The city is. The street
The
right
city
outside
is not the federal court building.
The street right outside the federal court building is not federal jurisdiction. It's city jurisdiction.
The court building that's being vandalized and attacked is federal jurisdiction.
Correct. But when they go out of the building to apprehend those people in unmarked minivans that they've rented and they're
Man, what is the insurance on that?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
But the insignia on their riot gear, their uniforms that they're using is incredibly obscured. It's very
that's
hard
called subdued.
Yes. But I mean, I'm for what's taking place, but I much like Matt last night, I've got a little bit of an issue with a couple of the things that are going on. Ultimately, it's a good thing, but there's a couple of things that aren't completely kosher to me.
I find it all kosher. I am in complete agreement with everything that is happening, except for that guy who kicked that guy. But I appreciate that. No, I don't know if anybody kicked anybody. But the unmarked vans are there for a reason. What is their reason? To be able to move around without getting attacked.
No, I agree. I'm not even upset
to not
about
have your windows bashed.
The minivans are the smallest of my concerns. It's a little whiffy to me that's how they're rolling people out. But I understand the reasoning why, and I'm willing to accept that reasoning because it makes some sense.
Okay.
The optics
so what is
on
your
this,
actual issue?
The optics on this of people rolling out in full-blown combat gear with 1 or 2 badges that simply say police on them, bagging and tagging these suspects one at a time and extricating them looks bad. Okay? It does. It looks bad. I'm not saying it's not necessary. I think it is necessary. But when Rand Paul says that that is something that has to, that is something that should be done by the local law enforcement, he's correct. It should be. The problem is that it's not being. So you've got people that are issuing stand down orders and do nothing orders that are culpable for continuing the lawlessness and criminal behavior. Therefore, the federal government stepping in and doing it is something I support, even though Rand Paul doesn't. But he's right in the fact that it should be somebody else. It's not. And that it looks bad, because it does look bad. However, all of that is currently necessary because these fuckwads won't get the fucking job done.
Okay, so what's our legal... I don't know the word. What can we bring against them legally to compel them to either do something or get them out of office?
The term you're looking for is recourse.
Yeah,
what is our legal recourse?
Well,
we don't have one. This isn't.
I was going to say, here's the other angle to this. Even though these federal law enforcements are doing the job that the local police can't or won't do, there still lies a problem in that everybody that they're bringing in, if they're charged with a crime, still has to sit and is subject to whatever attorney general brings and files charges. And in the most cases of that, it's going to be local people on that grand jury, and they're not going to indict anyway.
No, it's not. These cases are all being transferred to D.C. You didn't hear about the arsonist, Jason Carter, Jason from Philadelphia, or no, Portland, Maine. That's who it was, Portland, Maine. He was called the ringleader of something like elk burning or something like that. He was arrested, and he's being transferred to D.C. to stand trial, or just for trial purposes. That's what happens when you commit a crime federally.
Okay, he's still got to be tried by a jury, and we don't know that jury is going to absolve them or actually hear the case properly. And when it comes to, granted, I am not an expert on this, but in order to obtain an indictment, a grand jury is typically necessary. Where they're drawing that grand jury from has to be the locale that the crime took place in. And
yes, but you're not looking at context.
I am looking at context, because I think
you're missing the context of a local police officer arrests a teen for a local incident, and then you are judged by your peers in your community because it's a community issue. This is a federal arrest.
Right. So how does that grand jury get populated at a federal level?
The country.
Have you ever been asked to sit on a grand jury for the United States of America?
I haven't been asked on any level, which is a shame.
Has anybody know ever been asked to do so?
I have an uncle that did jury duty in Detroit once.
For an actual case or a grand jury?
For a case, just a regular ass case, and it ended up being
settled.
Yeah, like day one it got settled.
Okay.
Yeah,
there's too many white people on the jury.
Yeah.
But and that's only just one person. But yeah, the whole problem with that is if you bring it to DC, DC's full of libtards.
Well, there's that, but my other concern is that I still think that because of the way that the federal system is enacted, I still think that because the crime took place in Oregon, they still have to sit that grand jury, not the jury for the trial, but for the indictment. To get the indictment, the grand jury that's going to say yay or nay to an indictment has to be done from people from the state. And therefore, that grand jury might not even indict, despite whatever AG, and that's another question, is what AG is responsible for bringing those charges to the grand jury to say, do we indict or not? At every
It'll be
step,
a federal prosecutor.
Right, but there's no guarantee that that federal prosecutor is going to do a good enough job or has the fire lit under them to actually convince a grand jury that an indictment is warranted and should stand trial. So at every step of the process, there's always room for people to get in and interfere with that execution of justice.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. But, I mean, for the most part, besides for this arsonist guy, who they seem to be taking very seriously, it's vandalism. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, put the fear of God in them and let them go.
Well, and from what I've read, that seems to be what's happening is they bring most of these people in that they're bagging and tagging. They bring them in for about 2 hours, put them under a bright light and give them a rundown for about an hour and a half, and then they let them go.
In Portland, Antifa won't show up for jury duty. That's stupid. So here's the thing. If local cops refuse to enforce the law, I want the feds to step in, is what my clock says. That is not within the purview of the federal government. The feds, if anybody has ever watched X-Files, has a very limited, again, purview of what they can do. And things that are the feds are responsible for is federal buildings, federal land, cross state crimes, and then you've got actual like specific like the ATF, the FBI, who basically does. Oh, my God says, I know, I don't care. All right, fine. Like, so endeth the lesson then. But Scully is always keeping Mulder in line with where they can investigate, and that's the end of that story. She is hotter now than she was back in X-Files. That's weird. Since it's been 20 years. Very weird. 30 years? Has it really been 30 years?
Wow, I think the
I was
X-Files
going
started,
with
like 90, 91. So yeah, almost 20 years.
Yeah,
30,
I was going
almost
with
30
when it
years.
ended. Near 2000.
Yeah, so it's been off the air for 20 years.
Where literally nobody was the same. And it's like... that.
Oh yeah, those last couple of seasons
psychic,
of those shows just suck.
Yeah, the psychic Latinx and was it Robert Patrick who was no, who was it? I think it might have been Robert Patrick. I don't remember. Actually, I enjoyed that season pretty thoroughly. I think they were after Mulder like the entire time. But we've got speaking of federal cases. If anybody's heard yet, there was a federal judge who over the weekend lost her son, and her husband was also shot by what they're calling an assassin, dressed as a FedEx driver, hence the title card of our thumbnail of the YouTube video for today. She is responsible for what's the name of the bank?
Deutsche Bank.
Deutsche, yeah.
Deutsche, thank you. Deutsche Bank case about money laundering and some very oddly placed loans and securities.
To whom?
Well, Jeffrey Epstein, among others.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and convenient. Anyways, it's discovered that, well, first, the assassin shot and killed her 20-year-old son with a bullet to the heart, and apparently shot her husband multiple times. That is the end of that story, and we start with the news story that the alleged assassin, Roy Dean Hollander, attorney, by the way, who just happens to be able to procure a FedEx costume, was found dead yesterday morning. Well, yesterday afternoon. So, over the weekend, shoots and kills a individual, and is found shot to death by himself because he allegedly took his own life, to wrap things up nicely for anybody involved. The shooter posed as a FedEx delivery person. Is accused of going to the Salas family door posing as a FedEx delivery driver, and the son, Dan, answered the door and was shot first. His father was shot moments later. Salas was in the basement at the time and remained unharmed. The only way this makes sense as a shooting for the case is if for some reason this judge wanted her son killed. Otherwise, this is not how you intimidate a judge. Because she's going to be off the case now.
She was only assigned the case on Thursday. I think that's also pertinent.
Well, yeah, you get assigned the case. You make your bribe clear. When that falls through, you immediately go to apparently shooting the son in the heart.
Well, I think that the assassin was hoping that she would have been the one answering the door, or the second person encountered after whoever opened the door. If she had been upstairs, she would probably have been a victim.
Then at no point is that the same thing. Like that you don't assassinate the judge in the case if you're trying to get them to vote your way.
Well, and maybe that's it. Maybe it's just as simple as the bribe failed, so it was a hit on her, and the would-be assassin was just incompetent and didn't complete the job, which is why he terminated himself, if that's indeed what happened. Who knows? It's not like the PD. It's not like we're going to get any answers or any follow-up to this. So it's mere conjecture and speculation from here on out.
It's not like Jazane Maxwell is going to be put into the same cell that Jeffrey Epstein was put into, with a broken camera and sleep guards, and be killed within the week.
I have told you about my theory on that, right?
No, what's your theory on this one? Because I've got a completely different theory than that as well.
She's already turned. She had already turned when Epstein was in jail. She has been wearing a wire for the last for the last year, basically. Getting info on whoever came running to her to get shit sorted out because Jeffrey was, incarcerated. Turned that info over to the feds, and is now literally jail bait, sitting in the jail as bait for these assassins.
Yeah, well, that's less interesting than our last one, which I liked a lot. I think the only way she makes it out of this alive is if the name she named happens to start with a Donald and end with a Trump.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely on the plate, and I don't know whether or not that's gonna bear substance or not. But that rumor has to be out there. That information has to be out there, and that she's going to push that way, whether she does or not, because you're right. That's about the only life insurance she might possibly have, other than putting her hands completely into Barr's hands, and that's assuming a whole lot, because all right, so the AG in Southern New York that was obviously corrupt when he got fired, and then the guy jumps off the building a day later. Those people that were involved at the time of Epstein's murder are no longer involved. So it's plausible that Barr has cleaned house in that area as far as the people that are going to be watching them. Not that they're still hugely vulnerable or anything, but it's entirely possible that that's a lot more secure than it was a year ago.
Possibly. Barr has a rather innocuous tie to the Epstein's, or Epstein himself, which is a little bit weird. His father, Bill Barr, whatever, Mr. Barr, was the dean or the president or principal of a school in the 1970s that hired Jeff Epstein to teach physics. And so that's an odd little students and other faculty who mentioned the entire time that that Epstein was there. Weird duck, that one. Odd fella. And this is back. Some of these are reporting in 2000. Prior to all this situation of island flying to and Clintons and whatnot. But it's a weird situation. That there's that connection there.
Well,
I don't know.
It just seems like New York is just as incestuous as DC is when it comes to movers and shakers.
Absolutely. A lot of the shaking and the moving goes between New York and DC. But Garrick, you got anything you want to fill in?
No, I think you guys got it pretty well covered.
All right. Well then, let's move on to being so woke that you're a white supremacist. Because that's literally, when you talk about whiteness and white culture in the United States, here is the things that you are talking about. If we could pull up that graphic. White dominant culture and whiteness refers to the way white people and their traditions, attitudes, and ways of life have been normalized over time and are now considered standard practices in the United States. And since white people still hold most of the institutional power in America, we have all internalized some aspect of white culture, including people of color. Let's list out some of these whiteness and or white culture that is affecting and has insinuated its way and just crawled in and become pervasive in the United States of America. And those things are: the individual is the primary unit, self-reliance, independence and autonomy highly valued and rewarded, and individuals assuming to be the controller of their environment. Basically, rugged individualism is white culture. It's almost like 500, 600, 700 years ago, a bunch of people got sick of the bullshit that was going on, flipped an entire country the bird, and went over on a boat to see what they could do with a brand new land that wasn't holding them down, because they were responsible for themselves and valued their independence and their own environment. Good freaking Lord. All right, so individualism, whiteness, that flies in the face of collectivism, which is a bit of a commie talking point. So understandable. What else is white culture? The nuclear family. 2.3 children is the ideal social unit. The husband being the breadwinner and head of household. The wife being the homemaker and subordinate to the husband. And children having their own rooms and being independent is whiteness. Giving your children a good life, homemaker, wife, breadwinning husband. Now, what does head of the household mean? Because for the most part, like my grandfather was the breadwinner. He did the 9 to 5. He did all the heavy lifting. He mowed the lawn, things like that. But my grandma was still in charge of the finances. She did the grocery shopping. She wrote the checks and the bills. So, did he get to demand what the cable bill was, or he controlled the temperature? I don't know about anything else.
To my experience, and this seems to be not only my experience but all my peers' experience, head of household simply means that he holds an ultimate veto power. Yeah, you're right. It's usually the mother that does all the actual decision making and actual maintenance of the home life. It's just that the father gets to say yay or nay whenever, and it's assuming this. It's such a disingenuous assumption that the family unit.
It's insulting.
Yeah, it is. With the man at the helm, supposedly, is simply patriarchal and therefore evil. It's you. Every working family I've ever seen is a partnership between the man and the woman.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, it's just disgusting. The fact that this is put out by the Smithsonian Institution, which we all pay for via our taxes, because they used up all of Smithson's money a long ass time ago. That was, interestingly enough, founded by a Brit who decided to leave his inheritance to the United States of America for the purposes of a cultural institution. That was used up centuries ago, a century or more ago. So it's all taxpayer funded, and subject to this woke nonsense that is blatantly racist.
Mm-hmm. Garrick, you got anything? You awake, sweetie?
No, I didn't go to sleep.
So other... Huh?
No, go ahead.
All right. So continuing with the... This is just so racist. We start getting, like, really insulting. Objective, rational, linear thinking is whiteness. Cause and effect relationship. You want to go ahead? You want to read this?
No. You
quantitative
go right
emphasis.
I don't have it in a very
good
position.
Good Lord, man. Just the emphasis on the scientific method is white culture.
And they wonder why academia is going to shit.
Yeah.
Well, that's because critical theory has taken the place of the Socratic method.
Right.
And critical theory can't do anything but destroy. It can never create. It can never understand. It has to destroy. That's its purpose. And it has a place in some regards because you want to be critical about things. But if that's your sole operating paradigm, all you're going to do is break shit. Because that's all it's capable of doing.
If all you have is a hammer, every problem starts to look like a nail.
Well, the thing is, you can't use a hammer to cut wood. I mean, like Sean said, critical theory has its place, but it's not the ultimate tool. The ultimate tool for building is, of course, the Socratic method, because you do have to figure out problems and you do have to figure out ways to construct things in such a way that they're operable.
Well, the Socratic method is a good way to understand why. I don't think the Socratic method can't really build in itself. But, I mean, when you go down to... Shit, I lost my train of thought.
But the why is the root of why things are built.
Yeah, it goes back to the cause and effect nature of what they're decrying as white culture and being bad just by its mere existence of critical thinking of cause and effect. The Socratic method answers the cause and effect why question And it's what you do with that information that can lead to creation. Critical theory, you're just going to identify something is bad, why it's bad, and then all you can do is destroy the bad. You can never recognize what's good because critical theory, being critical, can't ever accept that something has its place. And
all I'm hearing is whitey, white.
Yeah,
whitey, whiteness, whitey, white.
Pretty much. Well, and I like on this graphic how one of the things of, white culture is time.
That is so true, though. Holy shit, that is so true. I've got examples of this. But now, the next one that they address is history. And this one actually has its merits. Because the United States is based on the Northern Europeans' immigrants' experiences in the United States. It is heavily focused on the British Empire and its primacy of Western, the Greeks, the Romans, and the Judeo-Christian traditions. It is the United States, as is also most of Europe. We all came from the Code of Hammurabi, which is an Arabic, but still in European way of passing down laws, and we created precedents, and we made it so that when a king laid down the law, he couldn't contradict that law because it was already set firmly.
Well, we didn't do
this
that.
Is how
the English did that.
Well, white people, sir, which I am, all of them, because they are me and I am them. So we did take from a predominantly Greek and Roman and the Judeo-Christian traditions as Judeo-Christian. Oh, that still gives me a problem. But a Western style of thinking as opposed to Eastern philosophies or their traditions. So yeah, it's understandably so. Even though the Easterns have a similar thing to precedent, which is providence, but still, it's nonsense that
providence also played a role in our own development as well.
Yeah, it's of course that is our history because that's our history. Should
it's like, what do you want to do about it? If you want to rewrite it, all you're going to do is fuck it up.
Mm-hmm. Protestant work ethic. Hard work is the key to success. Work before play, and if you don't meet your goals, you didn't work hard enough. Our whiteness.
I mean, to believe otherwise is to set yourself up for failure.
Well, what it's doing is it's setting the stage for excuse of failure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The same thing.
People are still going to fail. People that work hard fail. People that put everything they've got into something sometimes fail.
Absolutely. Something like 7 out of 8 restaurants fail in the first 5 years. And that's not from like a bad menu or poor wait staff. It just sometimes happens.
But if you don't value the hard work and you don't value the effort, you're almost guaranteed the failure. But what they're trying to do is make excuses for the failure and say it's not their fault. This is the thing with modern contemporary thinking that bugs the fuck out of me, is that everybody's out to protect their ego and remain blameless and unaccountable for fucking everything.
Mm-hmm. And we move on to religion. Christianity is the norm. Yeah, it is. Because we're a mostly Christian society.
We are the most Christian society, I think.
Second, we've got a little brother down south who is heavy into the Jesus.
Good point.
But other than that, I mean, we're twice the size of them, but they have twice the face we do, so they do make up for it quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at you, Rio. Jesus, that's a big Jesus.
Isn't it defaced now or no?
No. That would,
Good Lord, getting to it would be unreasonable by any stretch. I'm not carrying a freaking can of paint that far. God's sake.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that anybody that's around it at the time will straight murder you right then and there.
Oh yeah, I mean there are tribal people who will kill you. That's my Jesus.
That is literally the national monument.
Yeah, like there are people who've never even heard of Christianity who know that's their god. There's still cannibals who worship that thing. That fucking thing is huge. And every time I see like heavily exploitation movies, man, that thing was everywhere. Like anytime you flew somewhere for like in South America, you saw that thing. You could have been going to Colombia, you still saw that thing. And I'm like, you don't own a globe, do you? Which is odd because the name of your production company has Globus in the title. But yeah, it was everywhere. The big old Jesus embracing the world. And no tolerance for the deviation from single God concept. Is there? Is it no? I mean, I get it. Like there's a unreasonably high amount of lesbians that are pagan. Like it's a disturbing amount, if you will. But
they're just in search of a goddess figure that Christianity does not offer. Well, that's not necessarily true. The Catholes absolutely do offer one up, but they just don't want to have anything to do with it.
Are we talking about Mary?
We are.
Oh, that chick. I've heard of her.
Which one, though? Because there's like 3 of them.
I know 2. Who's the third?
I don't know. I might be extrapolating.
Yeah, there might be 2. There's the mother and then the prostitute. Who, if you're a Da Vinci Code fan, was not a prostitute, but was the companion of Christ. Now here's where I start to get a little have some issues. Status, power, and authority. They say in whiteness, your wealth equals your worth. That is a little more of an issue I have. Like there definitely are people who like whenever Mark Cuban gets interviewed, the only freaking reason Mark Cuban gets interviewed is because he has $1 billion. Other than that, I don't give a fuck about Mark Cuban, Richard Branson, Warren Buffett, unless you're actually talking about Warren Buffett's wheelhouse. Like these people, their opinion is no more valid than my opinion, unless we're talking about their specific bailiwick.
You're going to have to forgive me, but I'm going to go ahead and take Warren Buffett's advice on stock purchases well over yours.
I said within their wheelhouse, their bailiwick.
Yeah, okay. I'll give you that. And Cuban, I mean, he knows the NBA. I mean, he knows sports, I guess.
If that's what they're talking about.
But let's talk about how this is tied to whiteness. You know what other culture really makes sure that somebody's wealth is equal to and a signifier of their worth?
Are we talking about urban rap culture?
We are, in fact, talking about urban rap culture because that's literally all they spit.
And your job is who you are. I want to disagree with that, but to a certain extent, I picked my job. I fought to get to where I am, which is not like a huge accomplishment. There are people far above me in jobs I also want, but I took my step to make my job my reality. For me personally, I didn't want to do a job that wasn't in line with my views. But, I mean, Dean Cain is an actor, but he will always be Superman.
Even though he's not literally Superman.
Have you shut your fucking mouth recently? You might want to try that.
I like Dean Cain, but let's face it, he's not... I mean, Henry Cavill is a better Superman than Dean Cain.
Fuck you!
Man,
Henry Cavill
is right now.
He even switched the part in his hair. What fucking Superman switch the part in their hair? Like, hello, if you don't switch the part in your hair, anytime you clean your glasses, people are going to see Superman, you piece of shit. No, I like Henry Cavill. I didn't care for those Supermen, though. I like, Justice League was too rushed for me, and the original Superman, like, for fuck's sake, man, save your dad.
Well, no, and I'm a Henry Cavill fan for some other movies. Other movies and other projects. I thought he was excellent in The Man from U.N.C.L.E., the remake of that movie that apparently nobody saw because,
I did. I liked him in that
movie. I did enjoy it.
He was the bad guy in a recent. I'm not going to say the movie because I don't want to hurt anybody's viewing because it's pretty recent. But he was a bad guy in a movie recently, and I still enjoyed him in that movie. Like I like the guy.
Well, technically, he's the bad guy in Batman v Superman too.
Why did you say Martha?
Which, by the way, out of those three
movies,
is he
the bad guy?
Superman, that was probably the best one.
3.
No, Batman v Superman.
Oh, okay, those 3.
Mm-hmm.
He does have 3 movies. You're right.
Yeah, he's in Justice League.
Yeah, I got to count Justice League as well, where he's kind of a bad guy as well. Not exactly a bad guy, but not the protagonist.
So I had the same thing happen to me that happened to the Harvard professor, only I didn't have a giant chip on my shoulder, and I knew the cops were just doing their job. Because I have respect for authority, and I valued my house, and that if somebody was breaking into my house, the cops came there super fast. I appreciated that. Because had that not been me, somebody would have been in my house stealing shit. Probably would have gotten into it a lot faster than I did because I didn't want to ruin my screen. So I have a heavy value of ownership of my goods, spaces, and property, which apparently is, again, whiteness. But other forms of whiteness is plans for the future. The idea that tomorrow will be better. Progress is always best. And delayed gratification. I lack in the progress is always best. I see too much progressivism that I don't care for. And I am not a giant fan of delayed gratification either. But planning for the future is whiteness. Time. Following rigid time schedules and time viewed as a commodity are racist. Absolutely absurd. Aesthetics based in European culture. Yeah, when you're 65% white and just 20 years ago the country was 80% white, you're going to be based on whiteness. The Europeans, which is where you came from. But even then, we're not really based in European anything. Like, our history is. But, when you talk about America and what we are, it's guns, chicks, and Coca-Cola. Those are the American things. Steak and potatoes, bland is best. That is a racist thing because the wars have been fought over spices that were specifically for being brought to America. Bland is best. Anybody ever heard of the East India Trading Company? That was like their thing was spices.
The English or the Dutch?
Fuck the Dutch.
There's only 2 types of people in this world I can't stand. Those that are intolerant of other people's cultures, and the Dutch. Women's beauty's based on blonde, thin Barbie. That's for some people. I have a thing because it can't be described as anything else.
because not exactly a fetish, but a raven-haired woman with blue eyes is absolutely my thing. But the Barbie is sort of not only a stereotype, it's also rather insulting. Nobody says Barbie in a good way. It's almost Barbie and bimbo are interchangeable. So that is not the beauty basis of America, or whiteness for that matter. But you do have those people who fetishize the green-eyed redheads, and because it's such a small percent of the population, it literally can be considered a fetish. Man's attractiveness is based on economic status, power, and intellect.
That's true.
Shit, I'm 1 for 3. Yeah. Melania's not with Trump because of his glorious tan.
She don't like the Cheeto dust look?
God. I like Cheeto dust look on my fingers. God, I miss Cheetos. You know, they Cheetos it was Cheetos that came to the realization that they could have the exact same tasting item without the powdery residue on your hands, but they opted to keep it because Cheeto fingers was part of the experience.
I thought that was Doritos.
Was it Doritos?
I thought it was Doritos. I could be wrong.
Well, either way, it's one of those two companies. And fuck you. I could go without the need for 6 napkins. You dicks. That's not to wipe off the dust. It's to fucking wipe the saliva off my fingers. Holidays based on Christian religion. That's not really true, because the Christian holidays aren't based on Christian traditions. They're based on pagan traditions. You know, we took the winter solstice as Jesus' birthday. We took the Easter from the pagans. We made them 6 months apart for a freaking reason. But the holiday is based on white history and male leaders. See, now that is bullshit, because the holiday is based on American history and American leaders. President's Day. And the white history, I mean, are we talking about Christmas being Jesus' birthday? Are we calling Jesus white now? Because apparently Sean King says he's black as coal or whatever. But we also have Jewish holidays. So those people aren't white. Justice based on English common law, property, protect property and entitlements, and intent counts. How shouldn't intent count? Why would you not want to protect your property? Should we be cutting off hands of thieves for like the Muslims do? What part of this is all insane and absolutely insulting, because it goes on to talk about competition. These are whiteness and these are wrong. Being number one, winning at all costs, the winner-loser dichotomy, action orientation, master and control nature, one being the leader and the others being the follower, which is definitely a much faster solution than to have a goddamn committee take a vote on bullshit and it leading to quarries and quandaries and fights and arguments, and it taking 6 months to change the uniform of our desert fighting soldiers from green to sand brown. It's ridiculous. Must always do something about a situation. They're right. We should do nothing about a situation. That works so well. Aggressiveness and extroversion are whiteness. Decision making is also whiteness. And the majority rules when whites have power. That is absolutely nonsense, because in America, because we're Americans, where whiteness is the key to everything, we have minority protections.
Yeah, ask South Africa how that's going.
Yeah. It's not. Can you imagine telling a black person, hey, LeBron James, winning at all costs isn't a thing. Guys, I know you make your money by playing sports ball, but the winning losing dichotomy is just it's very insulting. This aggressiveness of your sports playing and your extroversion. Jesus, this is absolutely insulting.
Well, when you come
It's
down
English
to it,
rules.
all of this entire infographic is nothing but communist theory wrapped in race theory.
Brought to you by the National Museum of African American History and Culture.
It's communism.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that they're rallying against is a communist argument.
Yeah. They're saying the King's English rules is for communication. It's not just our communication.
How many arguments have we had with Face about our fucking common language?
That's just it. When I was more heavily into the alt-right, it would be Americans and the English in a fight about what a biscuit is, predominantly for the entire time you're in the alt-right, or the pronunciation of aluminum. Like, there was no here's how we take over the blacks and enslave them to our will in a white ethno state. It was the difference between a digestive biscuit and a graham cracker. But pilots, all pilots speak English that travel globally. You could be in Spain, in Denmark, in Rio, in any place in Germany. If it's an international flight, the pilot is speaking English to the comptroller. Because English is the language of flight. CERN, which is in
Switzerland and France.
What?
It's in Switzerland and France. Mostly in Switzerland. Part of it goes through France.
Yeah, but like the facility goes into France, but not CERN itself. There's no one in France. It's just
right.
It's just property.
The loop goes into France.
Yeah, because it's fucking huge. It's the biggest creation of. Anyway, CERN is in Switzerland. It has people from all over the world. The official language of CERN, English.
Yeah, English is the new lingua franca.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a silly ass term.
Well, it was lingua impura for the longest time, which is why it was literally the Illuminati made English the language it is today. Because Leonardo da Vinci spoke English.
Not well.
Yeah, he spoke it in English though. Well, he wrote in English anyway. Galileo. Like these people who, for no reason, because they have no exchange with England, still spoke English. Which is why it became the language of science. Written tradition is whiteness.
Well, English was more flexible when it came to creating and defining new definitions. If you think in English, you can have clearer thought processes than if you're bogged down by your own other inferior language.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, they are inferior.
Like they are inferior, yeah. Avoid conflict and intimacy is whiteness. Don't show emotion. You want to? That's more German, but sure. Don't discuss your personal life and be polite. These are whiteness. This is so overwhelmingly insulting. Like, following a rigid time schedule. I get that Africans don't plant food. That's a white thing where they brought over seasons and gardening schedules and the time to plant and reap your vegetation. But you telling me Asians, like, we didn't even invent numbers. That was all brown people of some sort or another. I mean, of course, a place like a desert community are going to invent the hourglass.
Well, I mean, if you want to get down to brass tacks, the Egyptian culture was probably the first to. Well, it was probably not even the Egyptians. It was probably the Mesopotamians came up with the seasonal necessity of time manipulation.
Being polite, avoiding conflict and intimacy. See, I don't know about avoiding conflict and intimacy. Avoiding conflict doesn't sound white at all to me.
No, we're pretty Spartan in that regard.
Yeah.
Avoiding conflict is more of an Egyptian thing.
Yeah. Or no, that's a very beta. Where whiteness is alpha. This is absolutely insulting. This is written by somebody who sees themselves as superior and feels guilty about it. Which is weird because it came from the African American History and Culture Museum. But I went to a school where if you were tardy 3 times, it added up to an absence. And if you were absent 3 times without written permission from a parent, you would drop from a class. And within the first month, we lost some blacks. Because they would come in with a cup of coffee from 7-Eleven and a McMuffin from McDonald's. Like, leave 10 minutes earlier. You're 4 minutes late to class. Holy shit. This single topic took 40 minutes. How bored must the 2 people watching be?
Oh, Mike and Black Magic?
Do we only have 2 people? Where the fuck is Steven?
Steven's doing other things. He might be watching Mikey. I don't know. Or maybe everybody's turned into the Return of the Tuck. I don't know.
Return of the Tuck?
Yeah. Tucker took last week off, so he's back this week.
So did his writer. Boom! He got fired. Or did he get fired, or what happened with that writer?
I don't know. He's no longer working there. I don't know if he resigned or if he was terminated. It really doesn't matter. But that's part and parcel to the hit job that people are running against everything Tucker and Fox News because how dare he be successful? Which I'm not even upset about. I mean, I kind of expect it. But if that's the case, can we start running hit pieces on, I don't know, Chris Cuomo, Don Lemon, Rachel Maddow?
Yeah, he threatened to throw somebody down the stairs and was out and about when he had apparently COVID.
Mm-hmm. That he never had. I mean, it was just fashionable to have it, so you got to say that you do. Plus, it's a good way to get some time off.
Yeah,
right?
Like Tom Hanks described like his symptoms of COVID, and his wife Rita described her symptoms, and they were like completely antithetical to each other. Like they had nothing in common. Like one had fevers, the other had chills. I'm like, maybe you guys should have got your story straight before you came back from your pedo arrest.
Well, they kind of go hand in hand. You can have a fever and chills. It's just your body failing to regulate its own temperature.
But you should have a fever if you have a virus. Just saying.
You can have the chills when you have a fever too, and a virus. It's a thing. It happens.
Let's see. Why do we have Holly Berry trending? Jennifer Lawrence. Kanye won't be listed in South Carolina's presidential ballot in November. Bummer. There's a I stand with Tucker hashtag. I'm going to bet it's mostly bashing Tucker because people like to jump onto the trendings and retard them.
I find it interesting that the news dropped about the sexual misconduct against Fox News, Hannity, Carlson, and Ed Henry today, right as Tucker was about to go live. That's, timing's a thing.
I'm confused. Republicans are tweeting I stand with Tucker after he got accused of sexual assault. Well, now I think of it, they do like their rapists. That is very interesting coming from somebody who probably supports Bill Clinton. I stand with Tucker as he tries to reach up my skirt. Every woman at Fox News. Blessed are those who have persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. That's Paul Joseph Watson. This is the Palmer report, because he's a bastion of intellect and clever quips. Are people tweeting I stand with Tucker, saying that they stand with Tucker Carlson's blatant racism and his alleged sexual harassment and his overall dickishness in general? Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm going to go ahead and throw a follow because I don't follow Tucker Carlson. So let's fix that. Absolutely disgusted by the failing New York Times to put Tucker's wife and children at risk. Shame on them. What utter delusional lunatic. I can't believe any reputable lawyer took this serious. I hope Tucker sues the ass out of them all. They're coming for Tucker Carlson with a sexual harassment lawsuit from liberal Sherpa who claimed that she's tied to a chair while Tucker changed in front of her. Following the show, Tucker Carlson changed on set into his leather jacket for the annual Christmas party that he told Miss Atreyu he would only be attending for approximately 10 minutes to make a quick appearance. Following the show, Mr. Carlson, hardly making any effort to hide his intentions, began telling Miss Atreyu, whatever the fuck her name is, that he would be alone in New York City that night, and specifically said that he would be staying alone in his hotel room without any wife or kids. Without question, Mr. Carlson was probing to see whether Miss Mexican was interested in a sexual relationship. Awkwardly stepped aside, Mr. Carlson advanced and declined to spend the night at his hotel. So he said, I'm in a hotel room, no wife, no kids. But at no point does it say he asked her to the room. This is bullshit.
I'm shocked.
This is all bullshit.
I'm shocked. Okay, not that shocked.
Imagine my shock.
Breaking, the New York Times is doxing Tucker Carlson. So, tied to a chair while Tucker changed in front of her was she had a mic on for the segment. That's her tied to the chair. And the changed in front of him is he put on a leather jacket. Mainstream media is the enemy of the people.
Pretty much.
This is absolutely disgusting. Anyone with 2 ounces of decency or a single working brain cell knows that this is a complete horse excrement. Yeah, I believe it as well. Women should never. Joe Biden didn't rape Tara. She's a Russian asset. If Joe touched Tara, Tara touched Joe. This is asinine. Do we have anything else? I'm gonna get the fuck out of here.
I'm gonna get the fuck out of here.
Ooh, did y'all see this highlight from Daily Wire?
What's that?
What?
Tucker Carlson claims that the New York Times is planning on revealing where his family lives to injure his wife and kids.
I thought they already did that.
Oh, did they already?
I mean, there was a couple of months ago.
Like how?
There was a mob outside of his house. Remember that? Threatening his wife and kid. He wasn't there, but there was a mob outside of his house playing music at loud volumes at his door, and I think somebody actually went up to the door.
They broke the door.
Yeah.
Oh, well, he put out a tweet today with a video. It's 2.5 minutes long if you want to pull it up.
No. I'm not going to get copyright struck
They
for
broke
that.
the door.
Okay, that's all I got.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure they are. Again, this goes back to the get shorty style of thinking out of the DNC and the leftists that just want to do everything they can to take down their opposition.
Wouldn't it be a shame if we all called the New York Times and let them know how we feel about them doxing Tucker Carlson, his wife, and their children, and then the number to... Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's get out of here. Good night, everybody.
Good night, guys.
Jesus.